when we see that excellent remark by Noctie, things are really good. And whoa, what a move by Noctie. Okay, all right, I thought we were stopping that move, but apparently no. Hello everyone, I'm Emil Stefanov, an international master, and in this video, I'll walk you through the weekly scenarios, week 48 in Noctie. If you wish to practice this position for yourself, follow the link in the description. Let's get started. This week's scenario comes from the course Positional Mastery Piece Exchanges by Lavinia Valcu, the youngest ever member of the Swedish women's national team. Let's go ahead and analyze this position a little bit. What about the king safety for both sides? Well, we can clearly see that both sides have a very safe king, and there's nothing immediate in terms of dangers. What about the center? Well, black has played 2 pawns into the center, so c5 and e5. But as a drawback, the d5 square is a lot weaker. There is no pawn that can push any of our pieces that jump on that square. So automatically, already I'm thinking we have to give up our bishop for the knight, and after bishop takes our bishop, then we'll have knight d5. We will secure that lovely square for our knight. The counterpart square of d5 is d4. Since we have not played pawn to e4 quite yet, we could in the future play pawn to e3, in which case we'll be able to control the d4 square and still be able to gain access to the d5 square through the c3 square. So with that all being said, we're going to start with the move bishop takes f6. And after bishop takes f6, we're going to play knight to d5. So here we're attacking the queen and we're also attacking the bishop. Queen d7 is the move chosen by Noctie. And here we have quite a selection to make. We could play knight to e4. We could play pawn to e3. We could play knight takes f6. There's a few moves that we can decide from. And ultimately, it's just a preference. I think if we take the bishop, then we're doubling the pawn structure on the king side. So we are making the enemy king slightly weaker. If we do play knight e4, then we do allow the bishop to go back to e7. And then once we reroute our knight to c3, we will see f5 inevitably. The last option is to play e3 and just allow bishop e7 to be played, in which case f5, f4 might come, but then we'll have the e4 square for the knight anyways. So ultimately, it's just a matter of preference. I think e3 and a3 make a lot of sense. We will be trying to play for b4, try to play on the queen side where our pawn chain is going towards. And by playing e3, we stop the d4 square. We stop this bishop from being active on this diagonal. Ultimately, if I have to choose, I will play e3. Although knight takes f6 also looks very appealing because we do manage to spoil the opponent's structure. However, we don't have any pieces around the enemy's king to really make use of it. So I will start with pawn to e3, which Noctie says it's just an okay move. It's a good move. I'm happy with that. Let's see if Noctie, plays bishop h4, tries to have the bishop, tries to probably put some pressure on the f2 pawn, but for the moment, everything is well governed, and I'm going to play a3 with the idea to play b4. I would really like to get this pawn on the queen side, maybe up the board, which will probably benefit us a lot. f5, Noctie doesn't waste any time, tries to start its own counterplay on the other side of the board. Very understandable. I'm going to play b4 as I had promised. Just go ahead and push this pawn. And let's see what we're getting into. Might not be the best plan, obviously, because there's some knight e7 and maybe some b5 because our queen is kind of in the way of the enemy's rook. But we do have some queen a2. Okay, just as I said, knight e7 has been played. Okay, yeah, we have to consider how we really want to continue now. Okay, we could play queen a2 right off the bat, but I'm not the biggest fan of leaving my pawn on d5 since I really want a piece on that square. So we could be strategical about this and we could just drop the knight from d5 back to c3, but then I'm assuming Noctie plays d5. So yeah, maybe I didn't play the best with a3 b4, but it probably felt to me like the right plan. I am going to take and I'm going to play queen a2. I feel like the queen is well placed on that square where I am putting pressure on the king and I am putting pressure on the pawn on a7. which probably we're going to see pawn to a6. But that's okay. Yeah, I think that's fine. Okay, Noctie says that's a great move. I'll take it. I'll take it. We're putting some pressure on the diagonal and on the a7 pawn. So let's see. Okay, king h8. Now it's always a question, can we take? And the verdict is we probably shouldn't. We probably shouldn't. Yeah, after all these arrows, hopefully you followed through. Queen a7, rook a8, queen b6, rook a6, queen b5, queen takes b5, c takes b5. There's probably rook b6 and rook b5. Or even rook a4, rook b4 maybe. So for the time being, maybe we should just play b5 and enjoy the progress we've made on that side of the board. Although Noctie will play d5, so gotta be a little bit careful. There's also e4. It does weaken our dark squares, but potentially we are trying to stop d5, and then also we could try to reroute the knight to a different square if f takes e4 happens. Yeah, I'm assuming e4 should be okay. And this is a huge assumption. So if it's not, then I'm sorry. Okay, e4 is a great move. Okay. So yeah, if f e4, I'm assuming we take d4. Okay, a6. That was also a move to stop queen a7, queen a3. So yeah, so far so good. We do have the move knight b1, knight c3, with the potential to go for knight d5. Let's see. Okay, after thinking for a while, I do like this plan a lot because I am trying to go to d5. And if I go through the other route, I could get stopped not only with f4, but I could get stopped with bishop g5. And I feel like through b1, the knight does not get stopped. So again, when we see that excellent remark by Noctie, things are really good. And whoa, what a move by Noctie. Okay, all right, I thought we were stopping that move, but apparently no. Okay, let's consider what's going on here. We could take this pawn, and then after bishop takes b4, we could take the pawn on e5, so we will be up an extra pawn. If we take with the c pawn, then our knight is really weak because it doesn't have the c3 square. After bishop takes b4, there's also a rook there, and there's two pawns that are connected on the queen side without any enemy, without any of our pawns there to stop them. We could also just hold and not do anything and just play knight c3, but there are pawns hanging. So if we have to defend it, we have to play queen b3, but then maybe d4, and okay, maybe we have to relocate the knight. Ultimately, I think this should be okay because we are... Well, we would have to surrender the e file then. If we do have to surrender the e file, it might get a little tricky. But let's go ahead and test it out. E takes d5. Noctie says it's okay. I'm assuming Noctie plays bishop b4 and tries to use the time that it's gained by basically saying my knight on b1 will be dominated by the bishop on b4, and my queen on a2 no longer kind of makes sense staying where it's at. And maybe, yeah, rook e8, quick counterplay. I did anticipate that, so d4 obviously reinforced the rook. My idea after bishop d4 is actually to play f4. Just really, just get that pawn, that rook really safe on that square. Okay, let's see. Kind of want to play knight d2. Kind of really want to get my knight into the game at f3 potentially. I'm assuming that after knight d2, I'll see b5. And c5, there's rook e5. So yeah, also we gotta be watchful for our own king's first rank. h6 was basically a move to make sure that this king doesn't get checkmated. We could quite easily follow it up with g3. Again, b5 could be a move that Noctie plays, yeah. I just kind of don't like how weak my first rank becomes, so maybe we should play g3 just to make sure we're not getting back rank checkmated. f4, that's logical. Since I played g3, I basically allowed this weaknesses, so just gotta be a little bit careful not to allow this f3 and queen h3 to happen. So we might eventually have to take there. We'll have to see. Queen e2, bishop d6, I'm assuming still gets to be played. So yeah, our biggest problem is our knight. Our knight is kind of weak on b1 and would really like to have it closer to the action. King g2 is also a move. yeah, we should not underestimate the power of king g2. Yeah, because it stops both these things, f3 and queen h3. And yeah, it looks like a decent move to me. Yeah, if I have to say, let's start with king g2. If it's bad, I'll just go ahead and take back. Okay, it's a bad move. Let's go ahead and take back and play queen e2. I wasn't entirely sure, but yeah, I'm assuming there's, yeah, some pretty big problems. I can't even imagine what type of problems. I'm curious. I just want to see. King takes f3. Oh, queen h3. I think my king is stuck now. I think that's probably the problem. No? Noctie continues to surprise me. What is the problem here? I am not... Okay, yeah. So it is queen h3. Just frustrating a pair of rooks. Okay, yeah. My king is kind of weak. So let's go ahead and take back. We will not be playing king g2. Let's go ahead and play queen e2. So our queen was kind of not doing anything on a2 anymore. So we just brought it to e2. We're stopping f3. I guess we're not because our pawn on c4 is hanging. Okay. let's go ahead and figure out why. We could take on e8 and force queen takes e8. Because if we take queen f3, there's rook c4. But if we take queen takes, we could take king f2, but then rook e2. But then we have c5, d6. It does get very complicated, doesn't it? As usual, I guess, yeah? But if I take rook c4, yeah, I don't really see... I mean, I guess I have queen b3. Actually, I do have queen b3, right? And yeah, it's not that easy to stop it. Rook takes c5, I'll have queen takes c4. And then, but then there's rook e1 check. Wow. The amount of calculations there. Yeah, okay. But I guess I could take, and then go queen b3. But then there's queen e2, yeah. Okay, let me take this, and then let me take on e8. Let me go into that endgame. Not entirely sure if it's good for us. I want to play king f1. It's a mistake. Okay, we have to reevaluate our thought process there. Let me go ahead and take back. So is it c5? Yes. Okay, we need to be fast. That's what basically needs to happen. We need to utilize our passed pawns. So yeah, c5. Okay, d6 has to be the move, right? And then b6, Noctie will try to disturb my pawns, and it is succeeding at that. So I'll have to play rook c1. Yeah, my knight is really the biggest problem. Yeah, all this time I probably should have done something else about my knight. Okay, if I give away the pawn, I don't have anything. Yeah, sure. I play rook c1. I kind of have to. So dc5, bc5, and then rook c8. But then we have d7. Okay, so we have a little bit of time before Noctie does anything. Now, the big question is, obviously the king goes to e6, then we're in trouble. We have to make use of our knight. So how do we do that? Well, I think we start with rook c4, so we can move our knight to c3. I think that's the solution. We would really like to move the knight. Okay. Now knight c3, be watchful, be careful. There's bishop there, so lots of danger for us. Back rank checkmate, that's the problem. But what happens after d7? Well, bishop a5 attacks my knight, but I go here. And then bishop c5 is also a threat. Let's not forget that. Okay, a lot of troubles, yeah? I have to play h4, bishop c5, rook c5. Yeah, ultimately we messed it up somewhere earlier, yeah? That's probably going to be just a draw now. I don't see any way around it. I'll play h4 anyways, because we need that move. Yeah, I guess I take, Noctie goes, rook takes, and then rook d1. And I guess we just make a draw. Okay. Couldn't utilize all the advantage, unfortunately. We were just one move shy away from being able to win. Unfortunately, we're not able to win here. Rook c6, a5, we'll probably just trade the pawns. I mean, I could also try rook f5. It's all draw. Yeah. Unfortunately, we could not Could not figure out the win there. Yeah, we were doing well. Maybe about here after knight b1, which was the excellent move, and then pawn to d5. That's probably where. Okay, but Noctie now plays something else. Yeah. Now we take f takes, and this will be a little bit of a different, because there's no d5. There's rook takes d5. So unfortunately, I went too back. I put the back button a little too much. Yeah, Noctie stopping us from playing knight c3, knight d5. Even though we have a slight edge, it's never quite easy. Yeah, it's never quite easy to figure out how exactly are we supposed to improve our position. But okay, I think this was a good test against Noctie. Obviously, this position probably we still have a slight edge, although we do have to be careful. There's some b5 stuff, although we do have c5. Yeah, it's not quite clear as we would like it to. We do have rook c3. It's probably a better move than rook c2. So there's no b5, and yeah, we have a good position overall. Queen b6. Okay, puts pressure on the pawn. We can defend it easily. We could play queen b3. We could play queen a4. We could play queen b2. All the moves make sense. I think queen b3 is the most logical. There was also queen... Yeah, probably queen a4 not to allow a5. Yeah, I guess this pawn is a little tender. And again, the biggest problem is our knight. Our knight didn't quite figure out the best route, right? I can play rook e2. I can defend the pawn easily here. There's no problems with that. But again, if our knight... I'm surprised. I'm curious to see what Noctie's solution would have been. Probably... Maybe rook takes e4 instead of d takes e4. Okay, it's about the same. Yeah, I didn't like d5 here. Obviously, that's kind of the big deal, right? That's kind of the big problem. There's a lot of tension there. So maybe we have to go back a little more into the position. We do have a slight edge, but it just feels like it was never quite enough to really utilize it. But this should obviously be the first move. Just bishop takes f6. We have to force the trade so that we do get our knight to d5 and try to use that square as much as we can. Maybe here it's probably better to reroute the other knight first. So knight e4, knight c3. This way we are making sure that okay, our knights are pretty well positioned. So we could start with e3 again just to make sure that the knight doesn't jump and kind of attack our queen, and then after f5, which would be the logical move, we could move this knight away and place it on c3. So we could continue with our plan of a3, b4. Obviously, Noctie continues with this plan, but it does give away the square. Okay, interesting. Bishop d8. It's a logical way to try to place the bishop on a better diagonal. I'm assuming we still play for b4 and just get a nice position on the queen side. After c takes b4, a takes b4. Things are looking great. Anytime, yeah, knight c3. Maybe this is the way to do it. Where both of our knights now actually make sense. And if knight e7 happens, then we can trade one pair of knights. And then we have our other knight jump in as soon as possible, right? So that's probably what I should have done from the start. This position, again, it is very complex. It's not over. There's a lot of... game left into it, but we do have a solid position, so we could continue with very logical sort of moves. Like currently our queen is kind of on this x-ray with the rook, so probably just moving the queen or playing rook b1 as well might be an option as well. But yeah, overall I think this probably was a better way than what we played earlier. But of course, try to play out the position yourself, and good luck. Bye.